Hi, Laura.
Hello, how's it going?
Not too bad. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
How about you? Things going all right?
Yeah, I caught like a little cold.
Now.
First time in a long time, so I'm a little scratchy. But
It happened to me last week, actually. I also had a little cold, and I haven't had a cold in years.
yeah, I know. I think some coworkers were talking about it too. So there's the season. Hey,
Choice.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you, Jeremy?
Not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Hanging in there.
Give it the customary 3 more minutes.
Sounds good.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Paul.
Let's see. Let me sign in as the host. I heard someone brought a deck. Who could that be? Who
It's
would
me.
be in this meeting and bring a deck, Laura?
I chose the coziest theme possible so we can have a good end of the year.
Excellent. You are permissioned to share the screen whenever you may so please to do that.
Okay, I think I did it. All right, cool. Sorry I'm a little scratchy today. I caught a little cold here, so I'll keep this a little brief, but very cute because it's the end of the year, so we should be excited
Very nice.
about that. Yeah, so I've done
Lovely.
a super cute slides go theme, so please enjoy. Yeah, just wanted to give a few updates into the end of the year on some of the KEPs. Basically, as listed here in the agenda, it's the end of the year. What is even going on? Just want to update everybody and confirm the next steps for any open items. I'm kind of like blasting towards beta is my goal for like the end of the year here. So just want to check in on if that's realistic, and also if I have all my dots in the right place and my what is this saying? Dot my I's, cross my T's, etc. Okay. Briefly, let's all look at this adorable penguin who is drinking a latte. But this is the status overview for the MCS API graduation criteria. So there's an emoji-based rating system here. I've highlighted these 4 in the next slide that don't have just plain old check marks next to them. We did have a meeting on this same topic in April. So the check marks are generally things that are already checkmarked are kind of similar from then, highlighting that we did talk then about the beta to GA graduation and felt good about them at that point. I made some updates in a PR from those conversations, and again, boosting the MCS DNS implementation that I mentioned last time too. Thanks again, Jaromir, for contributing to that. So the other leftover items right now that don't have full check marks, I'm just gonna feel free to jump in if you have something to say on any of these, but I'm gonna kind of walk through what I think is going on and just confirm we're all on the same page. So for a detailed DNS spec for multi-cluster DNS, we have the core DNS plugin implementation, which is based off of this, but there was some SIG network feedback that is already incorporated into that implementation, but like the final bits aren't added into the PR itself. So now that I've cleared a few other things off my plate, I can actually focus on this again and incorporate that feedback and actually get the LGTMs. So I think
Awesome.
that's all there is for that one. For API group chosen and approved, we did talk about this in April, and we were like, yes. But I'm bringing it up again, kind of spoilers for later of cluster ID, but I'm in the process. I just opened a PR requesting cluster ID API review, which is like a formal process that involves like this label and like a subset of people who are allowed to give API reviews to like put LGTMs on it. So I just wanted to know if this has been discussed before of doing this. Did I miss it? It might have predated me. Are we not doing it? Do we have feelings about that part?
So I think if you're not in KK, it's optional, but I think it's a extremely good idea and that we should do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually we have done, it's like more of a check-in, I think, at this point, because nothing's really changed.
Right.
We actually did do an API review back like pre-alpha.
Okay.
So we should just make
Yeah.
sure everything's still good there. And yeah, choosing
Okay.
the API group as well. I think, yeah, we need to do that.
Okay, cool. That's fine. I mean, I'm in the middle of this process now, or I don't know, beginning, but I actually did the / label for cluster ID. So it's convenient for me to do that for this too at the same time if we want to check it again. It seems to me that there isn't really like a dedicated artifact that gets made, unlike PRR reviews. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell like when that happened without digging through a bunch of PRs. So yeah, just didn't know
Before
that
I
happened.
forget, let me just put my hand up to like help in a IC type capacity on EDE tests when the time comes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we can talk about that one next. But yeah, okay, just to close out this one, sounds like there was an API review in pre-alpha, but we can hit it again for fun, and I'll go ahead and do that since I'm already handling it for cluster ID. If anybody knows, I could probably just find the PR where it was requested, or was it when an API review happened in the past, was it literally like with this label and like with this process, or was it more informal?
No, it was
than that?
before this process. It was just,
Okay.
it was a meeting.
Okay, got it. Yeah, if there's any like record or anything, I'll just mention it when I tag the PR, but if there's not, then I'll just mention what I know from this meeting. But just let me know.
Cool. I guess on the API group, I know this is
Yeah.
probably not the best forum to decide, but we had been kind of running with multicluster.xkates.io until it was solidified.
Okay, yeah.
It seems like converting that to kates.io without the X would be ideal.
Yeah.
But I'm curious if there are any thoughts there.
Pulling up our old slides too to remind myself what we talked about last time.
I'm thinking about that one.
Yeah. Or maybe this is a question just the API review. Like it doesn't seem like anybody has an issue with multicluster dot, and so that part probably makes sense. The
Yeah.
X-Kates to Kates is really probably a question for the API review. I know that a lot of SIGs projects are generally X-Kates, but you know, we wanted this to be kind of first class, and with the world moving to CRDs, it seems like that line is getting blurred anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
direction that like cluster ID is going to, that it's kates.io, which in all these conversations was one of the reasons why API review was prioritized too, just to make
Right.
all of these, you know, interconnected here. But yeah, and when we did talk in April about this last, all the examples in the SIGs repo, I put a note, are all multicluster.kates.io.
Right.
So that was a trend.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
the only place I think we've ever not used kates.io is in the current like repo implementation. So
Okay.
should we just go ahead when we're doing the API review, calling it multicluster.k.io and assume that's the way we're headed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of that opinion if we want cluster ID to also be, I mean, I guess they're kind of different, but also kind of not, but
Yeah. Okay, cool. Unless there's
Paul,
any objectors.
you were making thinking noises.
I'm still thinking about it.
Okay.
I like here is what I'm asking myself.
Yeah.
I believe there is a, well, let me put it to you this way. I would bet a nice crisp $1 bill that there will be a cost associated with discussion and consensus building around Kates.io. I don't know how much it will be. I'm asking myself if I think it will be worth it. I will probably continue to think about it for the remainder of the day. Like we can chat on Slack.
Okay. Well, as a data point, I am expending the energy for cluster ID as it stands. So there is a economies of scale.
And actually that doesn't seem to be like with cluster ID, that really doesn't seem to have come up in a lot of conversations, Laura, unless there was some.
Yeah, just the point that like API review has to occur, but even like reading some of the docs about API review, I would say it's more about making sure that it's following conventions and like meets some usability thoughts that have both history and then also people like thinking more holistically about it more than, I don't know, more than anything else. I don't know if that makes you feel better or not, but it's good.
So my gut says let's go for it, and if it becomes incredibly costly, like we can rethink it.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective to take. So we can just like back out if it's too involved, and I'll just bring up the updates of like where it stands and if it feels like it's dragging.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, so that's this one. All right, end-to-end tests exist for MCS services. So I briefly brought this up in April. We didn't really talk about it that much, but since the list is getting shorter, whoa, spoilers on my raccoon. Since the list is getting shorter, it's highlighted now. So according to like cross-referencing the end-to-end test package in the actual SIG's repo and what's listed in the KEP, it's missing some test cases. So I think that's like the first thing. If we believe that those test cases must exist based on the KEP, then they need to be implemented. So this is like a project open. And then
so for that, that was actually added as criteria back when we thought that this was going to be in tree.
Okay. Okay. So this is like a big question.
I'm actually less sure that we need E2E test cases, given that, or at least the way that it was originally intended, because there is no implementation. So what would be E2E testing? Instead, I wonder, should we rephrase this to be E2E tests that an implementation can use? But that becomes conformance tests. And honestly, that seems more nice to have than, certainly not a beta blocker, not even sure it would be a GA blocker, but I do think it's something we should pursue.
Right.
So independent of like maturity level of the API, like a conformance type test suite, I think will help implementers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like, I think it is a worthy thing to invest time in. And I wouldn't necessarily block beta on it, but I think it makes like a beta versioned API like much more compelling from like a vendor standpoint if you can prove to yourself that your implementation is conformant with the spec. So if we don't do it before beta, I think it should be like very high priority within that like dimension of the SIG's activity.
Yeah, I agree. I think we definitely want to build a conformance test, given that we haven't provided an implementation.
Yeah.
But I think I'm pro decoupling from graduation.
Okay.
I have a boring project management question then, but outside of like KEPs and graduation criteria, like I guess this is just a GitHub issue, right? Against the, if for conformance tests, since it's outside of this like formal KEP process, like it's just work we want to do
Yeah, we can
later.
just create a, or probably
Then,
add it to
okay.
the MCS API's repo.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So
but
this
yeah,
is
this
the
is
issue with
just
MCS API repo.
stuff under the purview of our SIG.
Okay, so is this as strong as like this needs to be removed as a graduation criteria for this KEP?
I kind of think so. Paul, what do you think?
I think it is kind of a no-brainer for graduation to GA, but I don't think we need to block on it. I do think that like it might be a very useful thing in like the next couple days for like the three me, Jeremy, and Laura to put our heads together and see if we can figure out like exactly what kind of level of effort it would take to implement and like which test cases, but I don't currently feel a need to have beta block on it.
Okay. Yeah, we should figure this out. I definitely think we should have it, but maybe, maybe move it to GA
Yeah, there's some
criteria.
nuance. Yeah, there's some nuance in here of like exist, and then like, do we need to be equivalent to what this KEP says? Is this what the KEP says now out of date with like all the changes of being out of tree? And then it sounds like this conformance test is like a total other potential project.
Yeah, well, so maybe move it to GA criteria and
Okay.
reword it to be more specifically about conformance as well. Because the original, like it really is about EDE tests for an in-tree implementation right now.
Right.
You know,
The original intent of this line was about, an entry component, which is not the case. EDE test item to GA criteria will work with Jeremy and Paul. This aligns with conformance / existing KEP E2E test. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess that also is like part of this, like it's out of tree. Is that supposed to be like regularly run?
yeah, I
So
think if
I
it's
will,
conformance, then no.
yeah, if it's conformance, then no. And if it's some other medial thing, we have to decide how, like if it even is testing anything meaningful. KK perspective, I guess. All right, I will hash that out with y'all, but it's moving. It sounds like it's moving out of the beta part.
Awesome.
Okay, then the last bit is cluster ID KEP is in beta. So the current status for cluster ID KEP is waiting for API review and incorporate the feedback. I just like started the request process like yesterday. So I don't know that this is going to be super fast, but I will see around. And I'm also going to kick it off for MCS API. So maybe we can get the same reviewer for both if that even makes sense. But yeah. And then after that, I think it's a matter of keep building the CRD into this repo that we made a while ago about API, again, naming TBD on API review, but it exists right now temporarily. And then the beta blockers for cluster ID was the to CRD or not to CRD question, which I think we've generally tabled at this point. And to decide if cluster IDs need to be valid DNS labels, sublabels or not. So I can open up another conversation about that second one if we think we need some more conversation about that.
I thought we settled on labels.
Yeah, I think we did last settle on labels.
I have the same recollection.
I think, let me open up on my other screen.
Yeah, because if they don't have to be labels, then they don't really solve the use case for MCS.
Right. Yeah, we need them for DNS, period. What it's about. Sorry, I'm on another. Here we go. Yeah. Wow, I'm in dark mode. Yeah, so I think these are both basically resolved at this point. So then it becomes a matter of, I think, ask everyone if we can go to beta at some point. This would also put cluster ID in beta and then MCS API in beta once all of these things are done together. So just want to confirm, I guess, that this is kind of like the schedule of activities that is up for cluster ID. Again, just to, sorry, I went a little sideways there, but to get this API review, incorporate any of the feedback. As mentioned before, if we feel like that's dragging on for a long time, we can reevaluate if we want to fight for the case.io or not. Make a copy of the CRD as finalized in the API review in this repo. And then we don't have any pending beta blockers at that point. So then come back to this forum and ask when the time is that we're ready to go to beta.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Same.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, that is the schedule of events. Great. Okay, so yeah, that's all I had to say. Happy to take more questions or comments, but thank you everybody for an awesome year and have a great new year and enjoy winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks for all the hard work that you've done on this stuff this year and all the decks.
Yeah, I know. I got plenty of decks. I hope everybody else is enjoying the decks.
All right. Well,
a nice festive one to end the
everybody-
year on.
Yeah,
Oh,
good.
sorry.
I'll have to make it a tradition.
Well, everybody have a great rest of your day and rest of your year. Hope you have a joyous and safe holiday season and New Year celebration with your friends and family. Take care, everybody. Bye.
See you all next year.
See you next year.
You guys as well.
See ya.